On the last stream, I moved my mouse very rapidly in this mysterious fashion and said I was going to explain it later. Right now is later. I discovered something that is well explained in the title of the stream. I discovered essentially HK for Linux. And I'm lying only to an extent, because the thing about AHK is that it has quite a lot of stuff already built in there for you. And Xremap, the thing that I'm talking about today, well, it lets you make hotkeys, even like consecutive hotkeys, meaning like chord hotkeys. Hold up, let me do this. Usually that works. Okay, what about this? Boom, here we go. Yeah, it lets you make chord hotkeys, which AHK does not let you natively do. You would have to implement it yourself with like an input hook, which I did. It lets you do remaps, obviously. A couple of more things. So yeah, the basic functionality in terms of hotkeys, yeah, very similar. Actually, in some cases I was like making a hotkey that is juicy in some way, and I'm like, oh, this works the same way in HK. So that's that. But what about actual functionality? HK has a lot of like window related stuff that you can do. Window activate, window move, resize, window minimize, maximize. Does Xremap have this? No, and for a good reason. The Unix philosophy is do one thing and be really good at it. And that's exactly what Xremap does. It just simply provides you a way of making hotkeys and remaps. And they can do stuff. They can either be like a straight one-to-one remap. Here, for example, the compose key is my menu key, essentially. And I don't need a menu key, and I would very much prefer having another meta modifier, not only having it on the left, but having it on the right as well. So I remapped it, like a one-to-one remap, exactly like you would have in a hotkey. But that's not the only functionality that you may have. You can also make a hotkey that sends multiple keys together. With modifiers, as you can see, like Shift Tab, Super 8. Let me actually show off this hotkey. It fixes an issue that I've been having with OnKey recently. I can't really say for sure that it's like a bug in the application. It could be on my side, but I have no clue what could have caused this. Let's say I press Ctrl D to choose a deck to add a card to. Note, actually. To add a note to that adds cards. You would expect this window to automatically focus on the input box, so you can type in the name of the deck, right? And it used to. It's very like obvious behavior, but now it doesn't. So to focus the input box, I have to press Shift Tab 4 times, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 4 times. And to add to this, it also doesn't automatically tile. Bismuth, I imagine, tiles windows on their creation. And since this is a dialog window, which isn't, I guess, considered a real window, it doesn't tile it. So I would have to do it manually, pressing Meta 8 in my case. And this is how I want it to end up being. So I made a hotkey for this. Caps Lock B. That's hilarious. I didn't actually press Ctrl D. That's my problem. Hold up. We'll do Ctrl D to open the thing that I want to input box in, right? And then Caps Lock B. And it does both things at the same time. Make sure it tiles and focuses the input box, so it can be like fish, Boom. So I already implemented a pretty easy fix to a problem that I was having thanks to X-remap, which simply let me make a hotkey for the situation. And obviously having this hotkey everywhere else outside of OnKey, well, that's just way too specific and unnecessary, which is why you can make remaps specifically for some applications. Maybe I would want this hotkey to be available in 2 windows. What I would do is wrap this in this and then another class. You can specify either class names as like application or window titles, I'm pretty sure. For that process to become easy though, you should install wm control, and then you can wm control -xl, and it lists you all the windows that you currently have. The X flag makes sure that we have the classes as well here in the 3rd column. You can either just take this entire thing or the last part after the dot, and like here you go. And then once again, I'm pretty sure you can also match by window title. I haven't done that yet, but I'm pretty sure that's like a thing. Cool. What if you want a hotkey to specifically not work in some place? You can do not. Well, let's confirm this by actually going to the GitHub page of X-remap. So we can continue on to read a bit more about it. It shows quite a lot of examples here, to the point where I implemented all the functionality that I now have thanks to the examples. I just looked at them, replicated them. There wasn't really that much left to guess from me. Everything is like explained here, so which is really nice. Yeah, you can just not. And the same case where you can put that in an array, and here you go basically. So it's very, very simple. You can also name your remaps, which does absolutely nothing. It is essentially a comment. I thought that, oh, maybe I can like search, fuzzy search, this symbol, how I often can do. Just now I searched for X-remap, the key here, to get to the link, which is why I use JSON. The fuzzy symbol search is just really, really good. So I thought that maybe that's going to be the same case for YAML. No, we do tile, no, not a thing. So it's essentially just a comment. So what you could do instead is remove the name and put the dash here. Same exact thing, and then you can just put the comment here. There's really no difference. But the examples do use dash name a lot, so I decided like, yeah, sure, why not? Might as well do it the expected way. Maybe later down the line these names are actually used somewhere and it's going to be convenient to have your sections actually named. Yeah. So this is for key map. I don't fully understand the difference between key map and another thing that I'm going to show off to you right now. But basically the difference that I found right now is that key map accepts modifiers. I've been saying caps lock B, and we'll get to that too, but right now it is a modifier. In mod map, so this, we cannot use modifiers, only key to key. And what I imagine is the case, similar to how it is in AutoHotkey, is that these remaps are probably faster than key maps that interpret a key and send another key. What happens here instead is that tab, in my case, becomes escape. It just is escape. So there's, I guess, less overhead here. Now, why did I actually change tab to escape? For the longest time, caps lock was escape for me. I got really used to it. The muscle memory on that is fucking unbreakable. I've been trying to get used to it since yesterday, and if I end up like typing in NeoVim or in VS Code, you'll notice me fuck up. Like I'll press a key. You don't see the bottom right thingy saying oh, you pressed this key. But yeah, I would be pressing caps lock. You can probably hear that like from the microphone, and then tab, because I'm like, oh right, this is escape. So if it's so, I guess, unusual to me, why did I do it? Because caps lock is now a virtual modifier. And this is big. Essentially, you bring in a whole another modifier for you to use freely within Xremap. I have used up like all modifiers for global level hotkeys, so basically hotkeys that work everywhere. So meta plus hjkl is moving through windows, meta alt is resizing them, control meta hjkl, oh right, it's layouts. Because they're not as directional, so I was kind of like, wait, what is that? Yeah, so layouts for bismuth, and meta shift would move windows like this. I mean, I guess what I could start doing is meta shift alt and then stuff. And so it's actually kind of surprising to me that I've never considered it. Oh well, anyway, they would be entirely too difficult to press. And HJKL are very natural hotkeys for arrow keys for me to use. And adding a bunch of other modifiers on them to simulate arrow keys is very bad. Because at that point, I can't even do something like shift right, because I'm already pressing meta alt shift control or whatever. So with another modifier, I can actually have arrow keys. Now let's go to Discord so I can type some text and show it off properly. It will say that I'm just using arrow keys, but that's a lie. I am pressing caps lock H, J, K, L. And the thing about this is that I can press the other modifiers as well. If I want to go by a full word, I can just control caps lock L, H. So everything that you would expect normally you could do with arrow keys. Then caps lock I is home, caps lock O is end, caps lock U is page up, and caps lock P is page down. So I have this very clean, easy to press, convenient to use set of new hotkeys, thanks to having a new modifier. Without that modifier, I simply would not be able to put them there. And if I can't put them there, I just wouldn't have them, you know? Then I use Control A lot to select all the text that I've written somewhere to delete it quickly. Now I can press caps lock F to do that. And it's interesting that what you're seeing is the actual hotkeys you should be pressing. And I actually agree with it working that way. There's no way. Other hotkeys Windows only. I mean, I'm sort of glad it is, honestly. Because, like, if it was available on Linux, I probably wouldn't be using Rust right now, you know? It's a double-edged sword. If it was Linux as well, then I would have jumped to Linux much sooner. But then again, I wouldn't grow as much as a developer. So yeah, today I'm talking about X-remap, which is essentially auto hotkey. Yeah, so I was talking about, I'm glad it actually shows you the real hotkeys rather than what I'm pressing, because without my config, caps lock F is nonsensical. Like, what does that mean? So it's much better for you to actually be seeing what you're supposed to be pressing. Now I can press caps lock S to copy, caps lock W to cut, caps lock D to paste. And then I can press caps lock A to delete. The delete key is used very often, especially for like hotkeys in different programs, and it's inconvenient because you have to move your hand usually. Hi Amy. So now being able to do all of these very common actions just using my left hand is huge. It's like amazing. What else do I have here? Oh right, I removed tab because tab is now escape for me. So caps lock T is now tab, and that once again supports going forward and like shift tab and all that. Thank you. Oh my god. I don't even have the delete key bound to anything. I'd have to go find another keyboard and plug it in. Wait, like, do you mean you don't have the delete key? That's wild. Damn. Considering how often it's used, it's a crime. It's honestly a crime. Like, everyone has backspace, right? Like, everyone has backspace, and it's more easily reachable. This keyboard is unable to type delete. Huh. Wild. Like, delete is always either in an uncomfortable position, or, I mean, yeah, it's going to be less accessible than backspace. So I don't get why so many programs are like, yep, just use the delete key. It's like strange. Use backspace. Or maybe support both, like delete and backspace. Is this like an X key mapper or something? Do you mean like, by X, do you mean X11? The session type? It pretty much is that, but it works. Oh, no, not just X11. It supports everything. Let's actually go and read. Everyone who's been watching my stream for some time know that I live in like tangents and constantly breaking my train of thought and then maybe coming back to it. Who knows? First of all, X-remap is written in Rust. Amazing, right? And you know how I figured that out? We do X-remap, help, and I'm like, hold up there. Let's look at this section. I recognize it very much. I have like 5 terminal programs written in Rust, and in all of them, I use the clap library. And by default, it puts these 2 flags into your like CLI automatically, and it specifically uses -V for version. I was like, I recognize this. Wait, is X-remap written in Rust? And yeah, it is. Like, that's already a big sell to me, because Rust makes it more difficult to be stupid, you know? Then it works whether you use X11 or Wayland. So no usual like wall where if you use Wayland, I said that very weirdly. I'm trying to combine thoughts in my head. Yeah, like if you use Wayland, usually it's more annoying trying to do remaps, trying to send keys and all that stuff. Works on Wayland too, though. Yeah, I guess that's true. I've been learning Rust recently, but my favorite language is still C. Although Rust is definitely close. Yeah. C is a very, very respectable language, I would say. I haven't ever tried it even. Just kind of jumped into Rust. But it's definitely a super respectable language. My, like, top tier of favorite languages, on second place is Fish Shell, and my first place is Untaken, but I like Rust definitely more than Fish Shell. You know? So basically Rust is like 1.5. It hasn't gotten to first place exactly, but it's definitely better than fucking Fish Shell. I love Fish Shell, don't get me wrong, but a shell language isn't going to beat a like full-blown programming language like Rust. I've been working with Rust and I'm upset at it. Why? Yeah. Let's quickly go through how you would install it. You would install it usually through Cargo. Your Cargo install, just how you install pretty much any Rust application that you ever see, with the features flag. So I use X11, you would do that. Even though I do use KDE, I picked X11 because that's what I use. I'm pretty sure I did. Let's actually go and check that out. Let's do KDE. Yeah, I most definitely picked X11. Unless, yeah. Let's actually do this. This link, I hovered over it. Yeah, since I'm on Arch, I just installed it from the AUR, so I don't have to compile it myself. I only add 2 dependencies, and now my project has 34 dependencies. It's so upsetting. I see what you mean, yeah. The fact that you often need a dependency for things that you would consider very simple. But I guess that's like their philosophy, that the base language is very simple, but solid. So it can be extended by libraries, and you can pick and choose what you actually want, rather than having entirely too much. Which, yeah, I understand that blows compiling times into ridiculousness, though, but I understand. I need small vec. This thing isn't performance bound. Yeah, I feel you. Like, some programs that I have is like, what's like a very I don't care about performance program that I have? Let's go to Rust and go look. What do we have here? Yeah, Clorange. Oh, have I talked about Clorange yet? I don't think I have, but Clorange is essentially a terminal timer. All it does is, for example, increment a number, puts it in a file. You can you? Yeah, seems that way. Then Clorange show reboots how many? 2. very simple program. There is no need for performance. It does very, very simple actions. And then I'm sure in dependencies it's like, yes, let me give you everything that you want or don't. That's a blessing in disguise. And see, you have to manually install dependencies and stuff, and Rust does it for you. You don't want that many dependencies that you can do everything yourself. Oh, then, I imagine. Yeah, I appreciate it after all. It's kind of like, let's say you want to use a function from some place. I don't have like a Rust project pulled up here to show you, but let's say you want to use std fs open options and then like new, read, write, so on, right? You can just type in open options, and in the other, like in IntelliSense, it will just let you pick to use stdfs open options automatically without you having to explicitly type that in yourself first, like you would often have to do in C#. Not always and barely ever, truthfully, but yeah, in VS Code it's like a very nice feature. You just say what you want and it gives you that. In C you don't need 3 dependencies for JSON, you'd need 1 at most. I mean, that's a fair argument, I guess. But at the end of the day, only the things that are used are compiled. So it might feel bloated, like, oh my god, that's so much, but at the end of the day, only the things that are needed are in the eventual binary in terms of like performance. Also like how C has a lot of header-only libraries. How does that work? They're like, I know we're going to ruin your compile times, but at least you can pretend this is a symbol dependency. Lol. Right. So, we installed it, right? It explains, basically, how to install it for your specific situation. You can compile the header-only libs beforehand, so you only need to link, and so it doesn't use up any compile time. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool. So, you install it. What do you do now? I have a certain thing here. Let's edit out the unneeded part so I can actually show you what you need to execute. So we have the command here, x_remap -- mouse, in case you want to do some mouse remapping. And I'll go on to explain how that has been incredibly useful for me. And then we have -- watch. So what this is supposed to do is to watch your config files for changes. And once there are changes, well, they're reflected correctly. Like say you add a hotkey, you save the file, and boom, now that hotkey exists for you. That's what it's supposed to do. Shit doesn't work, straight out. For me, it just does not work for some reason, so I put it here still in case it gets fixed eventually by itself. But it technically doesn't work for me, so what I'm really should be calling is this. And yeah, the argument is the path to your config file, which is written in YAML. Now, what are the weird stuff on the right? First of all, we remove all output. Once we run this command, it will print a bunch of stuff for debugging, and it's very, very useful. You shouldn't ignore it the first time you run the program, because it will tell you in case your syntax is wrong or you mess something else up, and so on and so forth. But for like once you've set everything up and kind of understood how you're supposed to be doing things, you could remove all output from your terminal. Then we launch this process in background. If we don't, let me give you an example. Let's add another tab. We can do something like cat, and it's currently holding up the thread, waiting for std in. But if we were to launch it in the background, at least in theory, it would basically, it's doing exactly the same thing as without it, but it's not holding up my thread. That's the idea. And then you disown that process. So you move it to the background and get rid of it. So to compile all of that together, what we're doing here is calling xremap with our config, basically saying run this, like make sure these hotkeys work from my config. I don't care about your blabbering. Go away. That's essentially what we're doing here. And this command, whoops. Yeah, what this command essentially does is that it restarts our xremap config without occupying our terminal. I can now use my terminal the exact same way without it being occupied by anything. If you disown the process, so just ampersand disown, without piping it into dev null, it would sometimes just print into your terminal. You would be typing some command and some text would literally just appear here, which is wild. But if you pipe into dev null, then that won't happen. So essentially, this whole command lets us restart xremap once we've made some change that we want to apply. Time to contribute and make it work? Fuck no, I don't care. I sincerely don't care. Typing in xrestart and enter every time we make a change, whatever. It's like, yeah. I have other things that I want to do. You can pull a file for changes in Vim, so you wouldn't need another app like xremap, although it's still nice. I mean, yeah. All my homies hate Output. Oh hey, advent of code happens in 7 minutes. Time to panic. I actually don't participate. I'm sure it's like cool and exciting and great, but look at my fucking to-do list. I super have things to do. I need to build a sky bridge in Terraria. I need to fish for every fish and make every potion. I need to stream. I need to make fucking 4 projects. Okay, well, some of them are changed. This is like a whole project. This is adding a feature that I'm not sure how to do. A bunch of more changes and another project, like literally a rewrite. So I'm not that interested in participating. Also, I have just completed my JSON parser replacement, so I don't need to add any dependencies to my program. Nice. You need to visualize that chess in the TUI. I do remember that. Yes, that. Essentially, the idea of this program, and I think I can just show you something chess. Yeah, there are nerd font symbols for every chess piece. So I thought, what if we made a terminal program that had chess.com as the backend, but the terminal as the front end? And you would be typing in something like knight like b6, and then enter, and you make a move, and you see it being reflected on a nerd font chessboard in your terminal. I am extremely underqualified of making this, but this is such a cool idea that I want to keep it for some time and maybe eventually make it. Until I realize that maybe chess.com doesn't just give you an API to its backend, and that's probably what it is, to be fair. Yeah, that's right, I made my own bad JSON parser just so I can avoid Saturday. I would never do that, honestly. I mean, I did that in the past, but now I realize that, whatever. I'll just grab a dependency and actually focus on my project. So, this X restart thingy, it won't work like first thing in the morning, let's say. It won't work at first because you actually need to execute X remap with sudo for it to work. And if you do need sudo, right? Let's add sudo here. I won't actually execute this command because that will make me have to restart the stream. Why? Because sudo expects the password to be entered. But we're like piping all output to dev null and we're dezoning the process. So that dezoned process is just stuck there infinitely waiting for a password to be entered. And we don't have an std in to enter that password in. And while it's this, while xremap is setting up its stuff, it blocks all input. So I can't press any key to do anything, really. And I'm forced to long press the power button on my computer to fix that. So in other words, you need to find a way to execute this without sudo while meaning sudo. Sorry, I have to drop off during advent of code. It's like everyone is doing it. I feel kind of left out, but to be fair, I decided to leave myself out. But still, goddamn, I didn't know that it was that popular. Alrighty. So, how do we execute it without sudo while executing it with sudo? Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, it actually explains how to do this. I started reading it and I'm like, if you use sudo blah blah blah, you need to do this cryptic command. And I'm like, I would rather not. So my first solution was to go to this desktop, create a terminal, and do xremap and then all this, but with a few changes. dv0, and we just don't pipe it into anywhere, we don't dezone the process, and we just leave this terminal to basically infinitely run in this desktop. Basically making a desktop specified for services which I can't dezone because of sudo. There's probably some way to specify the password, I just don't know, and I couldn't be bothered. I was much more interested in actually making the hotkeys first. Right. And the positive of this is that you can still restart by then pressing Ctrl+C and restarting your command again. By pressing up or something. And this works, but it's kind of annoying because it requires you to just have a terminal somewhere running permanently for close to no reason. So I decided to go ahead and follow their advice and make it possible to run xremap without sudo. And the way I did that, interestingly, is not by following this advice. Let's go to y.tool. I made it work without sudo, xremap that is, by following the advice from y.tool, another tool that I'm also going to be using here. And let's see where that is. Somewhere here, I think. It explains how to fix it. No? Really? That makes me question my sanity. Because where did I get this? Essentially, this is the command that I executed on Arch specifically. Don't just go and run it all willy-nilly if you're not using Arch. And even if you're using Arch, don't just trust me. I'm a random YouTuber on the internet. I could break your entire computer. I don't know how this works. But I got this command fucking somewhere. And now I have no clue where I read to use it. Huh. That's super interesting. Maybe, wait, is that it? No, not even. Use a different command. Oh, here we go. Or not. No. Okay, this does something. I did not add this, whatever that is. Huh. Yeah, truthfully, I have no clue where I got this command. So let me actually comment it out. Where the fuck did I get this? But long story short, I think this command made it work without sudo. Who knows, maybe it worked all this time without it, and maybe I didn't ever execute this command. Let's actually check this out. Yeah, I did definitely execute it. Where the fuck did I get it? That's hilarious. But yeah, somehow, by following some advice, probably from xremap, that makes the most sense after all, you make it so you can run xremap, and by extension y.tool, without sudo. And this is big, because that is what makes our xrestart thing actually work. Now I can just execute that command to restart my config once I have made some changes. Once again, when you're starting, I super recommend just opening it like here in the terminal. Let's do dv0 like this and just having it run. So you have a very clean way of, first of all, seeing the output in case you fuck up some syntax, and then a very easy way to restart it. That way you can fuck around with things, try to figure them out, and you actually see output essentially saying to you what's wrong, more or less. And then once you got it, you can switch to my method if you want to. There's no need. If a running terminal doesn't bother you, here you go. I do find this hilarious now. And boom, once we've done that, we have this config. And in .files dependent, oh fuck, I usually, yeah. Oh, right, I was thinking, wait, why didn't I make a symlink to the location where it's expected, well, that's because it doesn't expect the config in any specific location. You specify the path to it. So no like, oh, make the symlink here stuff required. You just specify the path to whatever config path that you want. Okay, and then you just kind of start doing stuff. You have mod map to do one-to-one remaps essentially, and key map. Key map you would essentially use for everything that mod map doesn't work for. Alright, that's pretty much all the setup for X remap specifically. Like once you get to this point, yeah, you have your hotkeys and they will work, supposedly. Let's go through some stuff that I have here and the way that it works. Similar to my OnKey hotkey that I already showed off, I have like a remap, or a collection of remaps more specifically, that work only if I am in Terraria. But let's imagine I had Terraria running right now. It would be stupid because I'm streaming and I have a poor laptop. I know, right? I'm kind of not lying about the title. Yeah, I do VM control -XL, and what you would see here is the class, right? But Terraria has this annoying class that goes something like Terraria-x86 something something. Basically, it's annoying. So I decided to, instead of just specifying it concretely, I wanted to match it, like basically by substring, which is exactly what I did. By wrapping it in forward slashes, essentially mean this is regex, instead of being a literal one-to-one match. So you can use regex here for applications. Alright, I'm back. Let's commit more horrible JSON crimes with code worse, and probably more vulnerable than Serday. Fuck yeah. I mean, I feel like most code vulnerability doesn't matter, really, right? Like, who cares if you can hack fucking Oklaner? It doesn't matter, right? Maybe I'm just really ignorant of system security or whatever, but like, who cares, lol? Yeah, so what are these remaps for? For some odd reason, Terraria doesn't recognize my mouse side buttons. And I had this issue for a while, which is why the hotkey to use the hook, I set it to the key E, which works, it's like fine, but having to use a keyboard key for hook, which is mouse dependent by design, was so sad. I got used to it, but I'm like, that's not that great, you know? But then I made these two remaps, I checked them out, and holy shit, they worked. I went ahead into the settings menu, I changed the hotkeys to K and J, J for the hook and K for the mount, and it worked. It fucking worked. It was that simple. No bullshit I had to go through in this process, especially comparing to what I talked about in the last stream. That was so much bullshit. It's not even comparable. Yeah, it just worked. And now I can press a convenient key on my mouse to use the hook in Terraria. Isn't that great? Well, I'm making a programming language server. Yeah, you should be using a dependency, I feel like. I already run into security problems on the last language server. How does that just happen? That's hilarious. Did you know that F13 is interpreted as launch 7? At least in KDE. Let me show you this to you. We do shortcuts to go to, you won't believe it, shortcuts. Let's, I don't know, make a hotkey for kcalc. Literally never opened it. Might as well actually delete it, to be fair. I don't know. I press escape, the physical key, but since it's remapped, it's F13. That's false. That shouldn't be the case. Hold up. Huh. Interesting. So one day it was launch 7, and today it's tools, I guess. You can never guess this shit. Oh, hey, Mood. I guess it's tools now. So rather than being just F13, it is tools. Does that mean that I can press escape to open system settings? I don't actually want to. Not gonna lie. Yeah, I don't want to. Let's remove that. It makes sense, like, for tools. If you have, like, Fn plus F key is tools and open system settings, yeah, that's, like, super fine. I even agree with the ideology of it. I just specifically don't want my key there to open settings. I think it's unnecessary. Wait, so is this actually HKLOL? Well, does that exclamation explain it to you? The answer is kinda. You can make hotkeys, and in some fashion, they're less ass pain than auto hotkey. And you can also, well, you can send multiple keys, and you can execute shell commands. But is that, yeah, I'm done with those things. Yeah, the main juice, the main meat and potatoes of X3map is that it can execute shell commands. And this is the reason why I say, yeah, this is pretty much AHK for Linux. What is AHK? AHK is you can make hotkeys to do a bunch of bullshit. X3map is exactly the same thing, except to do that other bullshit, you don't use X3map, you use some other way through the shell, and you can do everything from the shell. Which is why I'm saying that X3map is essentially on a hotkey for Linux. You can do everything with it because you can do everything with through the shell. Oh god, do I have a lot to tell you about later. You always do. I'm like consistently flabbergasted that you're still working on your program. I would have quit like years ago. Funny enough, I was thinking about making simple binds for shell terminal commands. Oh yeah, that's actually a reasonable idea. I use fish shell abbreviations for that. Alright, so VM control, already mentioned today. We can look at the help, press this hotkey that I explained on last stream, and use -C to close a window. And then you can use the special argument, this one. Boom. Active to basically gently close the active window. Boom! Now I have a hotkey that lets me close the current window. It's not like I didn't have it before, but it was defined in KDE system settings, which is subpar because it sometimes just didn't work. Lamau, I'm still not sure why, but sometimes it just didn't work. But this, though, will always work, and it will close the app sometimes more gracefully than the previous hotkey would. And then I have this to forcefully close not just the window, but its entire process. I was this close yesterday to completely quitting the project and converting it to C or Rust. Please do that! Please do that! If you do, I might actually use it, especially if you do it in Rust, because like publishing is way easier. I guess I don't know how to publish C code, and whenever I see C code, it's not really published if it's small enough. If it's like humongous, it's at best in repositories of distros. But Rust, you can just cargo install stuff. You'll know later if I remember, lol. Where are you building it in? C or Rust? He's building it in fucking HKV1. Mood is crazy with that. And he's been working on this for like, I feel like at least 3 months, maybe even 4. I lost count. It's like a huge application, which is like a terminal, an anime searcher. I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but basically it does a lot of stuff really well. It looks good. It's amazing. Written in fucking HKV1. And he's still going on it. Like, that is perseverance. Fucking coal miners would be impressed, I feel like. Yeah, like, don't do that. It has concerning scripting. Yeah. Fuck you on. It's just the front-end script, the library part is causing me issues right now. Huh. Regardless, I'm like super surprised we haven't jumped to a real/good programming language. V1 by all accounts is terrible. V1 is the Vim script of Lua. And I don't even like Lua. I want to make a programming language that's going to be Rust but better. Everyone wants to. And then you realize that, oh, this shit is kind of more difficult than I thought. There will definitely be a language in the future which is Rust but better, though. Like, definitely. The same way that Rust is basically C but way easier to use and like safer and all that stuff. Where I'm not saying that, oh, we can completely replace C. C is still like very solid and important. But if you're making a new project, you might as well use Rust, you know? And there will be eventually a language in the future which is, well, yeah, you could use Rust, but there's this better language, you might as well use it. Like, I'm super sure. God, I would love like a C-type language that has CoffeeScript, UScript syntax. Wait, isn't CoffeeScript basically JavaScript? The plan is to defeat the borrow checker and make it compile fast with this cool trick called garbage. Oh no. I completed the cycle. God, no. Nobody's tried this idea yet. I mean, I am interpreting it as sarcasm. I hope I'm right, because like, come on. So to make this hotkey that kills the process, let me show you the difference. I do a couple more Alt-Rs to open a few more terminals. I press Shift Caps Lock Q, and it kills all of those terminals. Not everywhere, mind you, but basically terminals that share a process. And it kills that process rather than gently closing it. So I have two options. I'm basically building OCaml, except for the fact that I've never looked closely at OCaml. Same lol. Yes, CoffeeScript just compiles into GS but makes it bearable to program in. Huh. but TypeScript exists though. I have a lot of opinions for a person that haven't tried those languages. I haven't tried C, I haven't tried JavaScript. Well, I've used JavaScript for like 5 hours in total, which is a really low time when you consider programming. Having done something for 5 hours is nothing. So, lol. Yeah, I have absolutely no clue what would that be. So, to make this hotkey, I use x.tool. You may have heard of this application, and it is like super useful on X11. Yeah, that one is kind of fucky on Wayland. Some things don't work or work worse. I'm sure you can read about it on their README. But it has a lot of useful stuff. Let's do x.tool help. It lists us all the commands that it has, and it can do a lot of really cool stuff, like really, really cool. And I use it a bunch in my remap. And if the SAST was here, he would be like, oh, actually, Windo-tool. We'll get to that too. Yeah, TypeScript is really cool too, but I personally like CoffeeScript syntax more. TypeScript has more functionality. Okay. The whole decorators thing is really fun. That's basically a guard clause. No, fuck. I don't mean a guard clause. I'm thinking of a different feature in Rust. Match guard, yeah. Kinda. That's like pretty cool. Can't write code in that order in Rust. Not in that order, sure. Nah, feel free. I'm always happy to see you. So, an interesting thing that I had no clue you could do in x.tool is just combine commands. So we do get window focus. You can just put a guard clause in any statement and CoffeeScript. That's like super cool. You can even put for loops there if you want. You can let variable is loop blah 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 break value in Rust. Loops, if statements, damn near fucking everything are expressions in Rust. So it has that kind of stretchiness to it that is super nice. So Rust is very nice in that fashion as well. It has more like edge cases, which you would expect to usually work in a language, but don't because of the rules of Rust. But it gives you a lot of really nice sugar instead. CoffeeScript lets you do if expressions too, if I remember correctly. I mean, I would imagine so, considering that it can do a guard clause like that. So we can combine get window focus and window kill. Turns out, like, I sort of just didn't know that that was a thing. I just asked ChatGPT and gave me that command of x.tool get window focus window kill. And it does that. Basically, I am imagining takes output of this and puts it into this command. And here you go. So, essentially, what launch is, I haven't actually mentioned it. It lets you launch or run a program. The first thing is the actual program name and then its arguments, being indexes of an array in YAML, essentially specifying spaces. Like, this is the command, just add commas here, boom. Get xtool, get window focus, window kill. That's pretty much it. So I had a bunch of shortcuts. Let's go to shortcuts. They let you add command. You just can put a command here to execute on a hotkey. I use that a lot. It's very, very useful. But now I could just move it to a place where if I wanted to change the command, I wouldn't have to fucking visit a GUI. I try at all costs to not have to use a GUI. And now I finally don't have to. I can just edit a text file and here I am with my updated hotkey or command. So I moved a bunch of my hotkeys, like for Grommet, for example, that lets me toggle drawing mode into X-remap. And I'm not sure if you noticed it ever. I don't know, probably not, but basically how it used to work before is that I press Meta F and I would wait like almost a full second until this cursor popped up for me to actually be able to draw. But once I moved those hotkeys to X-remap, they're now suddenly instant. You might be hearing me pressing the hotkey and it switches immediately. For some odd reason, using X-remap made those hotkeys a lot faster. Alright, I thought maybe an exception. I'm really glad that that is the case, but probably an exception, right? Yeah, except all my other stuff started being kind of faster too, for no reason. It used to be a bit slower, or rather, like on average it was a bit slower than it now is. It's almost like Rust is better. I know, right? And this is the hotkey, by the way. Well, lets me edit my clipboard and edit my clipboard by start with blank. They are now faster. Oh, and by the way, to know how to name certain hotkeys and keys, it's in the README here somewhere. Okay, I have to write my own custom macro thingy. This is not going to be fun. Just fucking use X-remap, come on. It is somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Has a link here that provides you this that specifies all the keys that can be mapped from and to. No, not like remap macros. Oh, you mean like Rust macros, right? I'm doing procedural macros. I see, for JSON. Wait, that's a thing. Hold on, that's super a thing. I saw somewhere that there's like a JSON exclamation mark. Fucking somewhere. I can't tell you where, but I saw it. It exists. And it even like works with your syntax highlighting correctly, which is wild. Apparently. Apparently. What? Right, I also have my Unicode select thing still, moved it here. Feels slightly faster, I feel like. It could be like confirmation bias, let's be real here. But, I mean, if it feels faster, it feels better in that way. And that's good, that's very good, even if I'm wrong. Yes, but if I use that, it would be a dependency. Why are you so, like, bricked up about dependency? Wait. Oh, it's called... Yeah. Fuck! The meme doesn't fit! Here you go. This is like my favorite meme of all time, probably. Yeah, why are you so bricked up about dependencies? Because, like, you compile them once and you don't have to compile them again, I'm pretty sure. Or at the very least, I never noticed that they do. I'm already scared that Rust, the language, is too much to depend on. Nah. Because it depends on LLVM. Huh. What is that? I have no clue. Right, so I have my this thing. Let's be super fancy for absolutely fucking no reason. Pull out my mouse mode, which we're super gonna get to. Don't worry about it. So let's start here. Hold down my mouse. Let's then go there. And do this. And then unpress the left click. And press the remap of Control C. And then we press Super W. Here we go. And then what we do is we move our mouse onto this. Now we meta hold down left click. Usually that works. What am I doing wrong here? It usually works. Trust me. Or that it has worked. An ideal programming language should be written purely in ANSI, C with no dependencies. An ideal programming language would be written in assembly or something, if even. No such thing as a perfect programming language. Fuck! I used to be able to move this shit. Like, basically, I press meta and then hold down click on it, and then I move it, but it doesn't work for some reason now. Oh well, well basically I move it normally because I'm a loser whose hotkey doesn't work for some reason anymore. Whatever. It's going to be perfect. This trick called garbage collection. Stop! Makes everything so easy. You might have heard of it. I've never had like issues with garbage collection, truthfully, but obviously I prefer to not have it. If it's something like Rust, like you might as well get the speed benefit if it's like so reasonable. Yeah, basically as we go on and on, I'll stop and explain this because here I'm using shell and then -c. Basically I'm creating a temporary shell to run this command. What? Oh, run this command in. So in the cases where you need basically shell syntax like piping and redirecting output, all that kind of stuff, you would have to create a shell like that. But if it's just a single command that you're calling, you don't need to. Wait, why am I using fish specifically here? Oh, because I don't know how to do this in shell or bash. But I do know how to do it in fish. Gotcha. So you can do the pipe. Yeah, absolutely. You can do anything here. I mean, you can always just create a script file that has all the stuff there, or create a binary by using Rust. But you often don't even have to. You can just create a shell and execute all of your commands here. I think it is 2 ampersand but I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure, and I don't care to learn. I don't care about bash. I use fish, so I'm not even like interested in learning that. Which is why I might as well just use fish here. The overhead that I'm not even sure exists of creating fish instead of sh, it's like worth it. Yeah, basically I moved a bunch of my hotkeys that I've been having this entire time into XRemap, so not much here to explain. If you want to go into more detail on those, I will YR and then GGLF this, and now let's copy this output. Boom. This is the most recent commit, which might not even contain this file or be broken otherwise, because a lot of time may have passed for you, the VOD watcher. Check. Is it like a year ago this video came out? Yeah, this file might not exist, which is why, for you, once again, the VOD watcher, I will give you this link as well, which is basically this at the time of me recording this stream. Boom. Well, that's nice. That means it's portable across window managers. Yeah. That's actually exactly my point that I just, I guess, haven't gotten to. KDE is nice. The fact that you can just make hotkeys for commands, that's a super cool feature, but it being binded to KDE specifically, I don't want that. Because that means that it's going to be a bit more difficult to switch off KDE eventually, which I feel like I'm obviously going to do. I'm like the most basic, stereotypical trans girl that uses Rust, is a programmer, uses Linux, oh, Arch, yeah, Arch. I'll probably switch to actual Arch, and uses a window manager. Those trans girls use window managers, and I'll probably do that too. I feel like it's just the natural progression. And it's also autistic, and I'm questioning ADHD. You know, like the whole package. So I'm pretty sure I'm just temporarily on EndeavourOS with a desktop environment. I'll probably like switch, you know, which is why it's really nice to be able to move all of those hotkeys into something that is WM or window manager independent. Hello, VOD watcher. How's 2025 going? Damn, imagine there will be a 2025. Isn't that wild? Fuck yeah. Let's pump that engagement. At some point you'll eventually switch to Emacs to your operating system. It's inevitable. Fuck, you're fucking probably right, which is scary. There's no way to avoid it. Yeah, you're like, you're super right, probably. So, we come to the juice and potatoes. That's not a saying. Oh, my favorite type of comedy is saying, as they say, and then saying that nobody says. Saying something that nobody says. As they say, why are you flipping potatoes? Another meme that I recently came up with is, despite the allegations, and then you say something that you had no allegations towards you about. Like, despite the allegations, I hate Lua. I infamously hate Lua, so obviously I have allegations that I have Lua because I've said it. So it's like funny because I say despite the allegations, you know? I find it super funny. The juice and potatoes, basically. Moving my mouse with the keyboard. You've been waiting for this. You're probably asking, why would you ever do this? This is ridiculous. One day I'll fucking find a person who also hates Lua. One fucking day. Why does everyone fucking love it? Why does everyone love, let's go to options. Why does everyone fucking love, fucking table, insert, the table again, but the one that you're using, blah blah blah. This is so terrible that I'm like consistently flabbergasted that I'm supposedly the rare minority that hates Lua. It's so easy to hate. Lua is a non-CC with no depend. I don't care. I mean, I do understand that it's like a very big advantage for some applications, but I personally don't care whatsoever. Like, I want features. I want my language to be nice to use. I don't care how big or small it is. Therefore, it's nah, they're on my dependency hating team. Currently doing Advent of Code and Lua to learn it, lol. What a good time to join stream. Lamau. It is very easy to hate. Like, what's even more unfortunate, at least to me, is that Lua is useful because you configure NeoVim in it. You can make Roblox games in it. You can mod The Binding of Isaac, my most played game in terms of hours, in Lua. So it's like so useful, but I hate the language. Lua is not about being nice to use. It's actually pretty painful. But that's the point. No, it's not. I switched off HKV1 for the exact reason of hating the unfun to use thing. And that's why I love Rust, because it's actually fun to use. It's simple, it works, it has a lot of great features, and is extendable really easily. I actually configure my NeoVim in Funnel, not Lua. I don't actually know what Funnel is. Right, so let's actually get to the mouse. First of all, you can create modality for your hotkeys. Here at the top, I glossed over it, but the default mode is default. That's not a keyword. Default is not a keyword. Default mode is, obviously. I just named it default, but you can name it anything. You can name it Octusi, which is a program that I actually made. It's public on my GitHub, and I've made a video on it, and it's really called Octusi. I shit you not. And it is this part of my shell prompt. You can check it out. It's actually super cool. It's just called Octusi, because I found it really funny. Right, so the default mode that you start with when you reload your config so you start with default. If you just put this line here, it does absolutely nothing. But, oops. You can make a hotkey that changes that mode somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So when we are in default mode, and if we just have mode that affects these remaps, which you may optionally name, when we are in default mode, caps lock semicolon does set mode is Vim, and Vim is also not a keyword. That's just a name that I came up with because, well, it makes a lot of sense to call it that. So it essentially changes the mode. Okay. Funnel is a Lisp language that compiles to Lua. It was made by Emacs people, but the NeoVimmers have taken over. Huh. Oh, interesting. I might like Lisp more, for what it's worth. Unfortunately, it looks like I'm not allowed to have the proc macros in the same crate. Yeah, I heard they're like kinda strangely annoying in that sense. You like would create a separate crate, which is a library crate, and you would, I specifically remember, in the cargo.toml you would do lib and then proc macro is true, I think, and then you would declare it, and then over the symbol, which is the proc macro, you'd do macro export, and then you could use it in your other crate. I think that's how you do it. Never made a macro though. I just know this. If I have to make 2 crates, it's game over. Why? It's like, oh, this needs to be small. I can allow rust to spread to more than 1 crate. A skill issue, I don't know. Embrace the rust. And how silly it sometimes is. Like, not gonna lie, yeah. It's a bit silly, but they're working on it, as I've heard. Right, so we have this Vim mode section, which you can probably guess works when mode is Vim. So all the other hotkeys that are in default mode, if I overrode them here, they are ignored. And I have a hotkey to switch the mode back. And make sure to first just make the 2 modes and a hotkey that toggles them. Test that with some simple hotkey that will do something obvious, but nothing too big. Like, make sure it works, that you did the syntax correctly, and then you can start adding hotkeys. So you kind of don't fuck yourself over in having an unusable keyboard and having to restart, you know? I wonder how hard it is to write this entirely in macro rules, lol. You mean like your macro? Or do you mean X remap? So, we're using x.tool again to mouse move to absolute coordinates. And essentially what I did is just I did math on my screen resolution and divided it into sections that made sense to me. Like, I could try writing my macro in macro rules instead of a proc macro. Oh yeah, yeah. I have no clue how to make macros. Like, I understand how to make them, I don't understand the syntax though. Never made one, so I'm not sure whether it's like possible or not in your case. So let me actually visibly show you where those points are. Oops, forgot to actually toggle my mouse mode. We're pressing caps lock semicolon. I love Grommet NPX. The fact that I can just very easily set up these points for you to be able to see is so nice. So yeah, essentially split my screen, did some math, and figured out the best places for all the 15 points that I can quickly move my mouse to. And then I can press Q, W, E, R, T, A, S, D, F, G, Z, X, C, V, B to move to these points. Yo, this is the points thing. Yep, this is the points thing. But Grommet NPX. I also had a class back in AutoHotkey V2 back on Windows called Point that let me draw in a similar fashion. I need in the video, you can draw throbbing cocks, I think, something of that nature. Yeah. So there's like very obvious, I guess, logic here. Yeah, I'm not sure what to explain here. You use x.tool and all of these places to move your mouse to a different coordinate. All that's left for you to figure out is what place makes the most sense for you. If your screen resolution is also 1920 by 1080, like mine, you could use mine, but if they feel kind of wrong to you, just do your own math, try things out, especially if you have Grommet NPX. It's going to be way clearer through restarts where each point is, so you can kind of like calculate what you want. And here you go. I dodged that whole problem by using mouse keys. I will get to mouse keys. So the idea of these points is that I can easily move my cursor to a more or less the correct position, right? So let's go here, for example, and I want to press this, and maybe I don't use Vimium in this case for some odd reason. Usually I would. My mouse is in some random position here. Well, what I would do is move my cursor here. It's the more or less there position. And now let's look what I do after that. I have hotkeys to move my mouse. To move my mouse bigger. To move my mouse even bigger. Let me immediately show you how that looks. So we moved to T, and then J, K, L, basically what you would expect. Left, down, up, right. Shift, and the same thing. And Alt. Basically, depending on the modifier that I'm pressing or not pressing, I can move with different speeds. So I do T, Alt L, Shift K, and we'll get to what I pressed just now after a second. So I can move to the more or less position that I need to be at, and then I can correct my position with directional moving, like relative directional moving. And I've had this on Windows. Back in my AutoHotkey setup, I implemented this myself, and I really fucking liked it. It was so nice, and yeah, not gonna lie, I missed it on Linux for the longest time. The fact that awkwardly I still had to use my mouse here and there, and I'm like, especially GUI settings, it like always was sad to me that I can't not use my mouse. And now I just re-implemented the idea that I used to use before, and it was really effective for me. In my opinion, it's like the best way you can do keyboard mouse manipulation, rather than, oh, you can like hold down and then it increases in speed. That always felt like super bad, like really just super bad and not worth using. But this is way more like interesting. See, like I moved there pretty quick, and as time goes, I get more and more used to it. Yeah, so here we used Y.tool. Let's first of all look at this again. All the available commands in X.tool. And we will probably have mouse move, yeah, we have, oh, mouse move relative. For the points we use X.tool mouse move, mouse move. And to move relatively, for HJKL, we would use mouse move relative. And you would do stuff here, right? But the reason I'm not using X.tool is because Y.tool exists. And that's a whole nother program that essentially is a continuation and improvement of Y.tool, and although it has quite a bit less stuff compared to X.tool, just 4 subcommands rather than the whatever 30 X.tool has. But it does them more efficiently, apparently. I haven't noticed a huge difference. I didn't like do speed comparisons or stability comparisons, but the things that Y.tool can do, it does better, is the basic idea. And you might say, oh, well, if it's that great, why didn't you use mouse move of wider tool for points? Because it didn't work. Lol. It just, no matter what absolute point I gave it, like here, 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 whatever, it just would move my mouse here. I was like, whatever, fine, I'll just use X the tool then. Yeah, but relative moving did work with wider tool, and what I noticed, right now I will be pressing down the L key for a prolonged period of time. It's actually kind of smooth. What it's doing essentially is just moving by 5 pixels as fast as it can, and it looks way cleaner and smoother than it did on Windows with auto hotkey. I mean, I do understand it's not like as smooth as real moving of the mouse will be, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm still impressed though that it seems better than on Windows with auto hotkey, which is great, honestly. So I use wider tool here to mouse move relatively now, which is the default there. Interesting, for X the tool, mouse move is the default absolute moving, and in wider tool, mouse move by default is relative, which is interesting. Yeah, and essentially, yeah, you just relatively move. They're very simple, self-explanatory. Yeah, I already gave you my config, just go and copy them. Nothing really to explain. Okay. I can also click with all three useful to click mouse clicks. I can left click, I can right click, or I can middle click, and I can right click. The creator of wider tool has a strange stance. It was explained somewhere here. Yeah. Key now only accepts key codes. Why? I mean, yeah, I can read. Don't worry. I can read. It says, so it's not limited to a specific keyboard layout, but I just don't see how that's like an issue whatsoever. Like, why not? Oh, you can use a word, but if that doesn't work, you can also use a number with a prefix, for example. So, strange points to take, but I guess it is what it is. And if we do y.tool, we'll get to that command that you almost saw just now. Y.tool click help. And if we read this, we see all the things explained here. So, left button, mouse button, right one, middle, and it's like 0, 1, 2, 3. So just open the help page and you can read about what key is what code. Alright, pretty simple, right? And then you combine them with mouse down events and mouse up events. So you can send specifically a mouse down event and a specifically mouse up event. Or you can send them both, so first down, then up, to do a simple click. You would then change this to 1 to do a middle click, I'm pretty sure, and this to do a right click. I mean, oh yeah, I was wrong, but you can look, basically. And 41 is hold down the right mouse button. So you basically combine these codes together to get what you actually want. It's pretty smart, like pretty smart of a way to do this, but not very UX heavy, let's say that. That's fine though, like I can figure it out. I'm a programmer. I solve problems. I'm a problem solver. Not really. Well, I like to solve silly problems, which are often not a problem whatsoever to other people, but are very much problems to me. Yeah, so I can now click the mouse with my keyboard. Good example, isn't it? Of a problem that only I have, I think. Yeah. Here you go. But what if I wanted to like shift, hold on, they already support all this stuff, like let's say turn on mouse mode, go here, then click here, we can shift click and it works like a shift click. I was pressing shift U there. So yeah, all of your modifiers are supported as expected. So you don't even have to do stuff with that, which is really cool. Xremap automatically like makes hotkeys with the modifiers as well, which you can disable. Explain about in the README. I haven't really needed to do that yet. But what if you wanted to press down and then move? You can very much do that, which I'm currently doing. Yeah. We use X.tool now because Y.tool doesn't have mouse down and mouse up. Wrong, it does, as we just saw. It lets you send a down mouse click and an up mouse click. So by all accounts, it should be working, right? I thought so, but it has had some annoyance with modifiers where it didn't work like I expected them to. But X.tool did. And that exact example, let's grab this and meta W. I tried to show this off as an example to you, where we could basically meta and hold down click, and now it does not work, right? Well, it used to work, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm still like flabbergasted. Like, why did it stop working? It clearly worked. Oh well. Yeah, basically X.tool worked in the situation before. And it was also a bit more like consistent with other modifiers while also holding down the mouse. So that's why I'm using X.tool. I might move back to Y.tool for this, who knows. So we have hotkeys for the down motion, and we have hotkeys for the up motion. They unfortunately have to be separate. We can just be like, oh, mouse toggle, which would be very reasonable to exist as a feature. Fortunately, it's not a thing. So you might say, oh, you could just like shell-C and then basically check the state of the mouse and then like send the correct command, like X.tool mouse down or mouse up, depending. All right, let's look at all the stuff that we have with X.tool. Once again, what do we have here? Do we have mouse state? Nah. We have get mouse location. And all the gets, we don't have anything about the mouse. So we can't just basically trust X.tool to figure out whether our mouse is down or up. So that's kind of gone. And that means that To make that a toggle, I would have to implement my own variable that would track if every key is down or up. And basically, anytime I use that toggle hotkey, it would send the correct event. Sounds pretty good, right? And I was going to do it, except what if I just decide to click with my normal mouse? Then that variable has incorrect information, making it like more annoying than it has to be. Which is why I decided to just have 2 sets of hotkeys for this, making this a lot more consistent. Yeah, and then I use Y.tool to move my wheel to scroll basically to the 4 different directions. Boom. All this together means that I can now move my mouse with my keyboard. I can click and I can even hold down and move. I also have these remaps that I already actually talked. Yeah, I actually mentioned every single one of those already. So this is like incredibly nice what I can do now. And I use caps lock, like the virtual modifier, as we already discussed here, a lot, but don't worry, you don't actually have to make your own modifier for all of this. You could be using meta, which is named super in X remap. Could be using like meta alt F, like I'm already doing here. Basically, you don't have to like make your own modifier and use that everywhere. If you have enough hotkeys to press, or maybe you don't care that much about them being super precise and correct, yeah, you can just use your modifiers that are already there. I am making my own virtual modifier only for the reason that all of my other hotkeys are like overextending already. So I didn't want to, like, I didn't have enough space for my cool new hotkeys, for them to also be nice to press, you know? But yeah, that's my X remap journey that let me finally move my mouse with my keyboard again. Like, I haven't touched the mouse. Well, streaming is different because I might be drawing stuff on the screen and be overall more active, maybe like show something off to you by drawing around it. I wouldn't do this in my like normal time, obviously, right? But for you, I want things to be clear. Whenever I'm talking about something, I want to point it out. And that's obviously like way easier to do with the mouse. It's not about ease, it's about comfortability for me, first of all. Like, it's not whether something is easy or hard that decides whether I'm going to be using it or not. It's more so about, is this reasonable to do, you know? Like, even if this is hard, if this was more comfortable to me, I would be using it. I actually never tried. Let's try this out. Ah, right. My Alt plus HJKL also decide the color, which is interesting. Oh, that's pretty cute though. And I can... Oh, that's so cute. Oops. I think that's super adorable. This is pick white, black, yellow. Like, isn't that fucking fun to just be able to do without using my mouse? But yeah, obviously it's at this point it gets uncomfortable Sure, I can, but it's just uncomfortable at that point. When usually it's more comfortable for me to not be using the mouse, even if it's in this, I guess, overcomplicated way. Even though it's overcomplicated and yeah, it's slower, it's most definitely slower for most cases. It's more comfortable to me, and that's why I make these sets of hotkeys for very specific things, sometimes like moving my mouse and a lot of stuff, honestly. Like, I've been showing all of that off on stream. I do a lot of changes to stuff that most people wouldn't really pay that much attention to, understandably. It's not about being the fastest. It's not about being the most efficient for me. Most of the changes that I make is about comfortability. And for me, moving my mouse like this is just comfortable. It's relaxing in a way. Whenever I have to grab the mouse and use it, I feel a bit more anxious. I shit you not. That's like, I guess, an autistic trigger that I have. For some reason, whenever I'm especially forced to use the mouse, yeah, that's where I get like a bit of an anxiety. If I don't have to use the mouse, but I may, that's a bit of a different question. Maybe I decide specifically, like, okay, I want to use the mouse in this specific case. That happens sometimes. But if I have to use the mouse, it like imagine you have 1000 HP, it would basically be minus 1 HP. It's really not a big deal, but I would still rather avoid it, you know? That's kind of deal. So, if you enjoyed this, if you found my review, basically, and show off useful, feel free to follow the links that are already sent in the chat to check out my config. Maybe you found something cool that you also want for yourself.